Good afternoon, and welcome to another episode of the Rick Williams Show. I'm your host, Rick Williams, and again, I got another one of my guests back again, Brother Rod Grams. Welcome back.
Well, thank you, Rick. It's a pleasure.
How is the book going?
Book is going very well. As you know, published 1st of February. Here we are in October, so it's been out for...
And I'm so glad we had you back a few episodes ago, and you introduced us to your book and everything. And I'm glad to hear that it's going well. But here's the thing. I've been getting some questions from radio and TV about your career as a police officer. And I got some questions here we're going to get into in a minute. And I'm just so happy to have you back. I told you you got an open door policy at the Rick Williams Show. You can always come up, talk about your book, talk about life. And one thing I'm so proud of, I seen this September, I never forget, your mom turned 101.
Yes.
Blessings, blessings, blessings. Listen, y'all, this is a blessed man, served over 40-some years in the Detroit Police Department and law enforcement. His mother is still with him at 101 years old. He wrote his book, The Blue in Me, and it's just going great. It was published in February. Now here we are in October, and it is booming. I am glad to have you back on the show. So I ain't gonna hesitate. I just want to get into it.
Let's do it.
I want you to know what the people are saying. These questions came from TV and radio. And to my audience, remember, I am on Roku, Apple TV, YouTube. That's Rick TV Network on Roku, Apple TV, and YouTube. This is the Rick Williams Show, and I am your host, Rick Williams, with my guest, Rod Graham, and we're going to get right into asking him these questions that y'all want to know. John H. had a question. How is that so many bad police officers get fired and are able to get hired by other branches in law enforcement in the same state?
Okay, John, thank you for the question. Yes, unfortunately, oftentimes that may occur where an officer may found themselves doing something that's inappropriate within a police agency that requires discipline, maybe up to the level of being dismissed.
Mm-hmm.
And as a result of that, in many occasions, not necessarily those that I may agree with, but the action taken against that officer may be, instead of firing and bringing charges forward, the officer may be given the opportunity to resign and walk away.
Okay.
And in doing that, that opens the door for that officer to perhaps simply go apply at another agency, because there is no record of that negative behavior in his file if they give him the opportunity to walk away from it. There's no discipline as a result of that. So it's almost simply just, it didn't happen.
It didn't happen.
And then next agency come along looking for officers, which so many agencies are looking for officers, not only here in the Metro Detroit, but across the state of Michigan, and quite frankly, across America. Police personnel is declining, and to replace those officers get tougher and tougher. So an agency finding someone that's already certified,
Mm-hmm.
based on the background check they do on the officer, there's nothing there. Well, yeah, we think you would be a great candidate for our department.
It has been known that Detroit has one of the best in the country training. Is that so?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
So.
I've heard that, and so many officers come in, get their training, I don't know, is it 1 or 2 years they work with Detroit and have the training, know that they've been through the academy for Detroit police, and they get that reference and they go and get in the easy jobs in the suburbs, but they got the best training and they climbed a lot of success so fast in the other departments, from patrol officer, narcotics, detective, sergeant, lieutenant, up the ranks. And it's all because of that training from Detroit.
That's true. I will say that, but also understand that there is a statewide certification process, and the curriculum is a state mandated certification. So every officer that trained, or every individual candidate that trained to be a policeman, must meet those standards.
Okay.
With that being said, Detroit being one of the very few, and maybe, and don't quote me, but maybe the only police agency that hire an individual and they're on the job while they're going through their training.
Oh.
Many police agencies will require you to have your certification
Before they hire you.
Oh,
now, listen there, John. Listen to y'all. Listen now. What Detroit would do for you. Go ahead.
Yeah. So if you happen to have the passion, desire to want to be a police officer in the city of Detroit, once you go through the vetting process as a candidate to become an officer, and the decision is made to hire you, you're on the payroll day one of training. And then you go through the entire 6 months of training. And if you're successful with passing the certification exam, now you are certified as a police officer. So you have 6 months, on the job, being paid while you basically going to school.
Now, before I go to the next question, what you just shared with us was not part of the question, but we appreciate that information. And as he said, here in statewide Detroit, Wayne County, Oakland County, Southfield, they all are hiring because the decline in police officers and law enforcement across the state and definitely across the country is declining, as he mentioned. And those of you don't just believe that being a police officer is a bad thing. And we dislike the police, but think. Some of the police officers of today is your sister, your brother, your mama, your daddy, your family. And they go out every day, they leave home and put their lives on the line. All our lives is on the line when we leave the house and sometimes when we in the house. Because I lost a very great friend that I just saw this past Friday at the union meeting, and he's on his way home, and a driver, out of control, ran into him, killed him. So it ain't just we worry about our police officers because their life is in danger, but all our lives in danger. But we have to have more love and respect for our officers because they are our family.
Yeah. And if I could, Rick, I just want to just bring out a situation that occurred this year, unfortunately.
Go ahead.
It wasn't in the state of Michigan, and forgive me for not remembering the exact state which this occurred, but to that question about how does one get hired by another agency when they've been dismissed from a previous.
Mm-hmm.
There was a situation, unfortunately, there was an officer that had been hired in 4 departments since 2020. That's basically one a year.
One a year.
And through his conduct in each of these departments, that caused him to be
dismissed,
let go,
unless,
but without maybe going through a process that would flag him as an individual that may be looked at as not being a good candidate to serve in your new department.
mm-hmm.
It never happened. So 4 departments in 4 years. And having that experience, I believe he felt like I can pretty much do whatever I want, and the worst that's going to happen is they'll dismiss me and I'll move on. Well, this worst that could happen actually happened, and he shot and killed an innocent person inside their home who had called for police service. So,
Was we won't call no names now that you're bringing it up. We kind of, I believe our audience is kind of reflecting back on that incident, that innocent person getting killed. It probably went nationwide news.
oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. And unfortunately, you know, it took that to get this officer out of policeman and probably going to be incarcerated as a result of it.
These questions are so powerful that we're going to carry on. I don't know if I'm going to have to put it in 2 parts or it's going to be 1 episode, but we're not going to stop while we got him here in the studio. We're going to make sure that we try to get most of your questions out. And I got a list of questions. Caller, want to know, what was a decision you chose while on duty that you now feel was the worst choice?
Decision I made on duty that I now feel was the worst choice. One that come to mind, in policy, it was the worst choice.
In policy.
In policy,
Okay.
it was the worst choice.
Okay.
I had an individual that thought it was a good choice for him to spit on me.
Caller, put that with your question. Go ahead.
So my decision and the action that came from him making that decision was not the best choice that I could make as a police officer and policy. But I tried to knock his head off.
I understand.
He was handcuffed at the time, so he couldn't defend himself, but he made that choice to spit on me. He was handcuffed. And the reaction was what it was. Now, that's not through policy, is not acceptable behavior of a police officer.
Right.
And I acted out of
Anger.
and emotion. But what that should tell you is policemen are human.
Police officer. Yes. And caller, think, whether he's a police officer or just an American citizen, what would your reactions be if somebody spit on you? We're going to move on. Mastermind man. Does the community, speaking of policies, does community policies really work in America?
I think he was in community policing.
Community policing does really work in America.
I am a strong supporter of community policing. I believe that it takes our community working hand in hand with our police departments, no matter what city, what community in America, to help us be successful. Policing is there to serve the community, to create the safest environment possible. We all know that it cannot be done by just the police. So how do you get the community to come on board and assist you to help make their community safe? It takes building a strong, positive relationship
Amen.
with your community. So community policing, there are so many components to that to help build that positive relationship that that's what drives a successful community and a safer environment.
That is a great answer, because you need the community. And listen, mastermind man, you have to be mindful to understand that the police is here to serve us. to serve the community, and they have a job to do. If you go to Chrysler, Ford, GM, and not put that part on that car, then you are not making it to be reliable as it is. If the police department don't build a relationship with the community, they can't keep you safe. The community got to be a part of you doing your job successful as we serve and protect the community.
Absolutely.
Great, great. Katie asked the question, what should one do when being pulled over? What should one do when pulled over by the police?
Another good question. And I get that often from just having conversations out in the community,
Okay.
or from friends. So my time on the street and just being an officer over a number of years and being a police chief, to answer that question, I would always say to an individual, if you see and recognize that a police officer is pulling you over for what you would believe or obviously would be a traffic stop, I suggest that you safely pull to the curb or into a parking lot, turn your vehicle off. I always say if it's nighttime or dark, turn on your interior dome light. Why would I want to do that? Right. Well, you want to give that officer as much comfort when they approach. And by turning your dome light on, you kind of illuminating your interior cabin of your vehicle so they can see pretty much what's going on or what's inside that cabin. Because officers don't know until they literally get there and start that conversation. So to give them the opportunity to be as comfortable as possible, I would say turn on your dome light, keep your hands visible. Again, officers do not know who they're about to interact with or what may be in that vehicle.
Let me ask you, I tell my kids and people I know, just general, when you pulled over by the police officer, pull to a safe zone. If you know how, everybody don't know how, turn in to put him in the safe zone when he's standing there talking to you. In other words, use your tail end to protect him. I turn on an angle. I let all four windows down. Now you say turn interior lights down. I hit all four windows because I remember when they first started tinted windows, and it was almost illegal if you didn't know what to do. And we lost an officer in the line of duty by approaching a routine traffic stop, and the person had tinted windows, and he didn't see who was in the back, and unfortunately he was fatally killed.
Yes.
So everybody got tinted windows. Now, the average thing, none of y'all actually tinting the windshield. So when the lights hit you, pull to the safe zone. If you know you ain't dirty, we know that's why you're an officer. But if you know you're straight and everything right, work with the officer, hit all four windows, and go to 12 o'clock. Because if you get any motion when he's walking up, that put him danger, and he's approaching in action. But if he feel comfortable, he's going to come up and, ma'am, sir, so and so license, registration, proof, and insurance. If he feel comfortable, not going through all the procedures what he did before he pulled you over, but he's almost know who he's working with before you get, if they in there, because that's the duty, right?
So yeah, so you brought some great points out. Yeah, you always want to roll your window down, especially the driver's window. So when the officer engages you in conversation, you clearly understand his questioning or his interaction with you. He can clearly hear what you're saying. Pulling the vehicle over, I would say pull it over in a safe manner. If you're pulling up to the curb, parallel to that curb, the officers are trained how to position their patrol car
To protect
to
them.
protect them. So I would always say, pull your car over in a parallel position to the curb. Not necessarily, and I know it's a great thought to want to help protect the officer, but if you position your car parallel to the curb, that allows him the opportunity to position his car
For protection of yourself.
for protection of himself and to have the best advantage of him to conduct his business with you, the driver.
Oh, great, great. So these are some great questions, and I'm going to continue to go on. And the next question is from Dwayne. What determines if the police vehicle is marked or unmarked? How do you know if it's okay to pull over on an unmarked vehicle?
Okay, that's a great question. So, police departments, they identify their objective, obviously to create the most safest environment possible. And that may require different strategies to utilize unmarked vehicles, if you will, for various types of assignments and details. If an unmarked vehicle attempt to pull you over, and you're not comfortable because you're not sure if this is a policeman or someone that's pretending to be a police officer, I would say at a slow rate, continue to drive. Maybe get on your cell phone.
Oh, listen.
Dial 911 and explain to the operator, there is a vehicle behind me that I am not comfortable with because I'm not sure if it's the police or not. What should I do? Continue to move, but at a slow rate. Don't want this to be mistaken as you're trying to flee.
Okay.
In addition to that, depending on where you're at, if you know your community, start driving slowly toward the nearest police station.
All right.
And if you're able to make it, if you're in close proximity of a police station, drive to the station. Put your four-way flashers on. You want to indicate that you're aware to the person that, yeah, they're back there. But again, if you're not comfortable by being pulled over by an unmarked car, first thing I would do is I would call 911 and make it known that someone is attempting to pull me over, but I'm not comfortable.
Is dispatch or the 911 operator are able to reach that car and identify that they are in pursuit of that vehicle, 69, I mean, when I say 69, 99 Chrysler or whatever, just making up a car, that dispatch can let the person know on the 911 call that is an officer of our department, and Officer Grams will be approaching your car. Is that it?
So
Is that
you kind of get the gist of it. If you call 911 and say, hey, there's someone following me, they attempted to pull me over, I don't know.
flashing lights or whatever?
Yeah, I'm not sure it's the police. I'm kind of suspect of it. That dispatch is connected, or that 911 operator in many departments is also the dispatcher
For
the patrol unit.
okay.
In many departments, it may be an independent 911 operator. Like in Detroit, they have 911 operators who send information to the dispatcher.
Okay.
And then the dispatcher get the information and can talk directly to the officer. Or it would be something like, is there a unit westbound on McNichols approaching Livernois, following a vehicle that's not stopping? Well, how many would that be? It'd be one car. Yes, radio 12-3 or 1233, we're attempting to pull over 79 Ford, white in color. It's not stopping for us. We have that individual on the line we will notify them that we have confirmed that you are police and please pull the vehicle. And that's how that interaction will probably go.
And that gives safety for everybody.
Absolutely.
That's great. That gets safe. And as citizens, they should know this. But is there anywhere that they have community meetings at community centers that give this information that I'm getting, that officers go out and share information with them that helps the citizens in the community know that the police ain't always just picking with you?
Sure. That's just another part of
Having that relationship with the
community
community.
relationship and community policing. A lot of agencies have community relation officers who conduct and hold meetings monthly with their community, go to the neighborhood block club meetings, and those things where the community get to ask these type of questions, or the officer get to share this type of information out. That's all part of community policing. Again, making our community feel comfortable with working, being around with the police.
And I have questions for you, Rod, that came from the TV and radio. Different citizens want to ask you some questions. We have Vivian. What inspired you to pursue a career in law enforcement?
Yes, so Rick, I gotta tell you, what initially drew me to wanting to be a police officer was a tragic event that took place where I lost someone that I looked at as a mentor, a great friend as a young kid who was an amazing baseball player. And my desire and passion to play baseball was because of him. And I watched how he played the game, and he was truly very, very talented. And unfortunately, he was taken away from us as a result of his brother's negative behavior. His brother was involved in drugs, and I guess as a result of some bad dealings, these individuals came to their home looking for the brother. And when the brother wasn't home, they took my friend, and they took him down to the Detroit River, down the foot of the river, to an abandoned warehouse, and executed him.
Ooh.
And basically left a message where they can recover his body. And that's what drove me. I wanted to grow up, be a policeman, and find the people who had taken my friend from me. So that was the point that made me have a passion to want to be a policeman.
And you served 45 years in the business?
I've been at policing for more than 47 years now.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. And you know, this is about you, not about me, everyone. He got some stories to tell. I have some stories to tell, but it's not about me. And that story he just shared with us, Vivian, that you asked is strong, very strong, but he took and dedicated his life and his career to making a difference in what happened to his best friend and serving as a law enforcement the right way. Tamika want to know, what was your biggest accomplishment during your civil service career?
So I'm proud to say that I had many, but I think my biggest accomplishment was once I was appointed to the position of chief of police at Detroit Public Schools Police Department. I had the opportunity to forge and guide change to create a safer and secure environment for our students.
And at the time you went in as chief of police for DPS, Detroit Public Schools, how was the environment in schools from at the time you went in, with having all the changes in schools compared for when I self came up through schools? Metal detectors and doors locked down and the things. When we went to school, it wasn't like that. It was fun to go to school. You hated to go home because you was having so much fun in school. What you had to deal with as chief of police to give your best protection to the students of Detroit?
Yeah. So I got to Detroit Public Schools Police Department in 2002, just to give the landscape of when I arrived there. And we had a lot going on in our, not only in our school district, but in our city. A lot of things that was going crazy, helter-skelter. And in our school district, it was just not a safe environment. There were so many things that needed to be fixed and things needed changing. I was actually asked to come over to the department and leave the DPD and come over to the department. I knew the chief at the time, I knew the executive team, and they asked if I would come over to try and help get that department
Up and going.
restructured in a way and that we could be a more efficient agency. So I went over and had an opportunity to bring forth some suggestions and ideas. Whether they were taken to heart or not, I won't go into that part.
I understand that.
Once I became chief, now I have the opportunity to create what I would think be ways to help our students become a safer population and our schools to be more secure. So I put 23 initiatives in place in addition to what a functioning police department already had. So when you think 23 additional things, I think that's significant. There were things that I put in place to, I went in and I've had the opportunity to oversee the construction of a new state-of-the-art police headquarters and command center for the school district, which allowed me to put in like an alarm system to protect our property. Real quick, I'll just explain what I'm saying here. When I got there, we had a antiquated alarm system that if someone decided to break into school, they would be in the building maybe 5 to 7 minutes before we got a notification that there was an intrusion. So giving a perpetrator that much head start, and now you have to add into response time, which could be anywhere from maybe 3 to another 10 minutes. Well, the thief has, let's say, 15-minute head start.
15-minute head start of you.
It's rarely we're going to catch someone. Having the opportunity to change that or state-of-the-art equipment, put in a system that basically within 30 seconds, we had a notification of intrusion.
Now, at your time of retiring, the chief of police for the DPS was the last assignment you had, then you retired?
Yes, now I'm still in policing, but in a part-time capacity, but I left a DPS chief position. That was my last full-time assignment.
And do you feel that, as you explained the 23 that you put in place, do you feel that you took the department to a higher, more better department than it was when it was handed down to you? Even I know you say what you did, but did you see your impact as time came when you got ready to retire?
I did.
Great.
I say that with great confidence. Several of my initiatives were picked up by other agencies. There was an initiative that I started, that actually was picked up nationally. It became a national model for school districts that had police agencies and other communities around the country that had police agencies that were directly supporting districts on getting their kids to and from school.
That's great. Charles got a question here for you. I understand that you have been in law enforcement for more than 45 years as a black man in blue. What is your perspective on police brutality, specifically black people across the country?
That's a very good question. It's not a simple answer, but from my perspective,
From your perspective, okay?
I believe that overwhelmingly the number of officers are trying to do policing the correct way. I know that we see so often through media, through social media, through media and other avenues of police brutality. We see people of color being mistreated by the police. That's all real. I do not try to act as if that doesn't happen.
Okay.
Overwhelmingly, I think we try to do it the right way. Unfortunately, there are those that are out there that are not. And they are intentionally not. So, for me, I feel it's upon leadership to lead. And when you have someone that's conducting themselves in a negative behavior, you have to take corrective measurements, whatever that need to be.
Now, a question as chief of police, not to get in legal details, but as general information, when you have an officer up under your leadership, up under your part of your team, that behaving like that, how do you handle it?
So, depending on the level of the egregiousness of the action, discipline can come in various number of forms. Something as simple as re-instructing. It could be lack of knowledge or reinforcing rules and regulations within the department, or up to dismissal and charging someone with criminal activity. So it depends on, every case is different. So you have to, as a leader, look at the case by case and deal with it. But the key is deal with it in the best interest of your department and community.
Now, that being said, when the community, and you just said in the community, when the community turns against the department because of that action, how do you regain their trust?
Transparency. Starts with transparency. An officer make a poor choice and it brings a negative light on the police agency, you have to own it. As the leader of the agency, I believe you have to own it.
Own it.
If it was clear that it was a negative, poor choice made, own it, and then go about the business of taking the appropriate action as a result of it.
You have answered some very powerful questions here. I call them powerful because it's questions that people want to ask, and they don't always go to the community centers. They don't always know that there is a community officer, which every department that works within the community that has a team. Depends on how large the department is, that have that own division of community service that will help do what you're doing, which is great. But we are so proud to have Rod here with us on the Rick Williams Show that is answering these questions not only for the citizens in Detroit, not only for the citizens in the state of Michigan, but for everybody that view the Rick Williams Show on Roku, Apple TV, and right here in the Rick Williams Network. So we're going to continue going on. I got a question from Dwayne, and after this question from Dwayne, I want to give you some time to talk to TV and radio from your perspective, because these questions is lining up, and we're going into part 2 of this interview, and we could continue to just go on. I mean, I could do probably 2 hours here with these questions, because it's so important to understand, everybody, that the police is not what everybody see them to be. They are good people. Yes, everybody got some bad people. We got some bad people on Capitol Hill. We got bad people in anywhere you are. But there are good people doing things that they care for. So Dwayne asks, what can the police do to change percentage of the police, especially in the black community and brown community? We have heard the call to defund the police, which we know isn't illicit. However, what change do you think could be made to how the police funding budget are used to better serve the community? Big question he had there. I'm gonna make that the last one, and I turn it.
That's another big question. So defunding the police, let's just start with that.
Okay.
I think anyone realistically thinking about that whole concept, defunding, taking funding away from law enforcement, is not something that's going to serve our communities. Policing is necessary in our communities. So we have to fund our police, and we have to fund our agencies. Now, is there things that we can do in how we appropriate the funding for policing now in the 21st century? Yeah, I think there, and I can say that agencies are working to reinvent and keep in line, in tune with 21st century needs. So they're trying to always look for ways to reshape their police departments to meet those needs. Here's an example. The body cam. Officers are wearing body cams pretty much across the nation.
Yeah, yes,
It's a great tool. You'll hear, and I've heard from both sides of that subject, officers not liking them because it tends to say Big Brother's watching everything I do. Okay, so you get that side. You have the community that's saying, why are you videoing me? I haven't done anything wrong, and why am I being on camera? You get all of that, but I asked, look at what the camera is there to do. It's going to bring transparency and clarity to events.
Okay.
They say there's 3 sides of a story. Her side, his side, and
the camera side.
The middle. And now you have the camera in the middle that's capturing. And in many occasions where in the heat of battle, you may think what you said occurred, but it really didn't. So prior to cameras, in the heat of a battle, high stress, you take action. And then you immediately, when it's time to do your report, you write down the action that you took, or as you thought you took. Officer didn't necessarily lie. He went from what he believed he or she actually did in some cases. So now when they look back at the footage, it's like,
there's true evidence right there.
Wow, I didn't realize. Well, sometime in the heat of battle, you lose track, you lose sight sometime of the actual actions that are going on. So that camera is a great tool to have. It lends clarity and transparency to community when they believe something happened because the officer stopped Bob and James was in the car, and well, Bob ended up having to be handcuffed and taken to jail. Well, James go back and tell the story in James' way. Now, James may have had a bone with the police, so he kind of,
Make it,
fabricate the story a little bit and get part of that community maybe riled up.
Riled up. Okay.
Oh, well, we can look at the camera and see clearly what exactly happened. Nothing like what James said. So the transparency of the camera is so very important.
Great.
Those are tools that we have that's going to help us be more community supportive. You can use some of the funding to support officers as it relates to mental health support. The challenges that officers face on a day-to-day basis, the stress and whatnot that they deal with, and not having anywhere or an outlet to go release that in a healthy environment many times, and it's been, officers been stigmatized even when they want help, have been weak. But if you create the environment where it's okay to not be okay and to ask for help, that makes things better. It gives officers a better chance or a more comfortable desire to go get that help. So these are little things that you can do, and many agencies are doing it. I'm not saying that I'm creating a new wheel here. The wheel may have already been created, but to prop those resources up and make officers more comfortable. These are type of things that funding sources can support to make our policing a better agency.
Now, that was a powerful answer, and a strong question came from Dwayne. And Dwayne, as you watch it, and I hope that you got your answer from Officer Chief Brad Grams here. But this is not the end. It may stop now, but we're gonna have him back because this don't end, and we always got information. He got 45 years. But before we close, I want you to take 3 or 4 minutes and give the TV and radio a perspective on these questions and what you see in the law enforcement today.
Again, I thank you, Rick, for the opportunity to be here and have these conversations too, and thank your listening and viewing audience for sending the questions in.
Yes.
Very strong questions, and I'm thankful for having the opportunity to share my thoughts on the questions. My answers may not be the end-all, be-all. I like to believe that from a professional background, professional experience, that I'm providing good, sound, solid information. But with that being said, policing in America is changing. We see it every day. We see it in every community across America. The way policemen are perceived, the tactics that are used, strategies to try to create the best environment possible, they're changing all the time. So the one thing I would say, communities, believe that your police agencies are working to create the best environment for you. I know that's probably, you can be there on the other side of that TV looking and saying, well, that's easy for him to say. He's not living in the community which I am, and I'm the police activity that I'm receiving. This is true. I'm speaking from this individual and what I believe. And I believe policing is trying to make our communities better. Where it's not, we have to hold our leaders accountable. I'm not here to tell you what that looked like. All I can say is we need to always be willing to make someone accountable when it comes to such a powerful position as being a police agency. So interact with your police agencies, which is the key. Don't have answers to questions. Seek them out. Seek them out. Work with your police departments. I think together, policing and communities, we can make an impact. We can make our police department a police department that's in the best interest of us. As we all know, as we move into the 21st century, we have so much that we learn and get through social media, the internet, and activities of criminal behavior. It's driven by some of that knowledge that we are gaining. Police agencies have to try to keep pace with that. It's always going to be chasing that ball. In most cases, we can start as police agencies. We can try to do things that are proactive and not always be reactive. But agencies are doing many things. You see cameras, if you will, on our streets. A lot of people don't like the idea that there's a camera at traffic lights where they are able to capture license plates when someone maybe go through a red light. And they utilize that type of technology to issue that ticket. And it comes by the way of being sent in the mail to you. Well, that's allowing a police officer to not have to be necessarily doing traffic enforcement, but can be available to doing other police services that will help make the community safer. So everything isn't always about Big Brother trying to control. It's about utilizing new technology to help assist agencies to be the best that they can be for you. So I always will stand on working with the police, being supportive of the police to allow the police department to create the best environment for you. And that's just community policing at its best.
I thank you. We as the audience, we as the TV and radio, we thank you for the information that has been shared with us today. Thank you on your book, giving us your life in blue. I'm hearing that it's going well. It's been out there going on 8 months. That's a beautiful thing. You got a beautiful career in law enforcement that you're proud of. You're blessed to have your mother at 101 years old and still bowling.
Yeah.
Still bowling. Here we are in our 60s and don't want to pick up the ball. What a blessing. You are truly been touched by the hand of the mighty high, and you ought to be blessed. It's been a blessing to have you here. You got an open door policy. We always want you to stop by the Rick Williams Show and give us more information. I will be reaching out for you after we see how the response come off of these 2 shows and see what the audience is saying. If they want some more questions, come on back, talk with me, talk with them about what's going on. And I tell all of you, hit the like button, subscribe to the Rick Williams Show on Roku, RICC TV Network, Roku, Apple TV, and YouTube. Thank you so much for watching the Rick Williams Show, and God bless you all. We'll see you again.